Okay.
Jump over the dais.
Okay, all right, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mayor Rowe,
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Miller,
Present.
Councilman Racy,
Here.
Councilman Porter, Councilman Sanders,
Present.
Councilman Gabriel,
Present.
Councilman Webster.
Present.
We do have a quorum with all 7 members present. The first item is item 1. This is the approval of the agenda.
Move approval.
Support.
It's been moved by Councilman Sanders, supported by Councilman Gabriel. Any discussion? Okay, I am requesting that we add a moment of silence for all of our veterans, as Veterans Day will be on Saturday, and we will not be meeting at that time. So if we could have a moment, please. Okay.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
could we also have a moment of silence for the tragedy in Texas, please?
Is there any objection? No. No? Okay. Okay.
Mayor,
All right,
I have a
yes.
Question.
Yes. I d-
Do we need to, for the approval agenda, to add the update for Kozlowski, or do we just go and do it?
No, well, we can add Mr. Kozowski's update as a presentation, if that's okay.
Okay.
Are there any objections to that? No. Okay, all right then.
There is
Okay,
a motion on the floor.
For addition of silence for veterans, the
Texas
tragedy that happened in Texas, and then to add Representative Kozowski to the presentations. Any further additions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
The next item is item 2, City Council minutes. Item 2A are the regular meeting minutes of October 17th.
Move to approve.
Support.
It's been moved and supported by Mayor Pro Tem and Councilman Weber. Any discussions? Webster. I am so sorry.
It's closed.
But it's not his name, though. It's been moved by Mayor Pro Tem Miller and supported by Councilman Webster. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No, I wasn't there.
Okay.
Motion carried. The next item is item 3, presentations. Item 3, do you want Mr. Kozowski to go first?
Yes, please,
This is
if
an
you don't mind.
update from Senator Kozowski. Hi, Bob.
Well, I hope to be senator. It's representative
Oh, I'm
right
sorry,
now.
Representative, I'm sorry. I
Must know I'm running for that, right?
know you're running. I do. I'm
So,
sorry.
thank you
Paid
very
for
much
by-
for squeezing me in today. You know, one of the things I want to talk about today is auto insurance. I'm sure everybody that's on their mind. You know, it started off a year ago, and it was called D-Insurance. And I remember I met with Mayor Duggan about it, and I told him I would never support D-Insurance, because I'm not going to just handpick a city and let them have their own insurance. It should be for a whole. So it kind of started off as that. Then it went to the recent proposal. Yes, there were a few good things in it. I voted no on the package, and I'd like to explain why, because I think it's very important to our residents that they know why. You know, when you look at what the insurance companies are doing right now, in 5 years, that's all this bill was good for. So you might have saved a little bit of money right now, but in 5 years, it could have been right back where it is now, if not more. And you're going to maybe say, well, at least I'd have 5 years of savings. The problem with that is, though, is if something did happen, unfortunately, tragically happen, you and your family would go broke. You would have to go on Medicaid, and that would be after you exhausted all of your money. You wouldn't have the right to sue a drunk driver that hit you. There are so many things. But the biggest thing that I thought that was kind of ironic on the whole bill, because I talked about this in our caucus room, is what about how you get to this rate? Do you know that they can make your rate on your credit score? I mean, how ridiculous is that to have your insurance rate on your credit score? Or your zip code. Now, a zip code I can believe a little bit because if you're in rural areas or in a big city, obviously theft is a little different, but it still shouldn't be that big of a drastic number. So I told them if they change all of those, they add more to the fraud component, I would probably be a yes, and they never got there. So I voted no, and it didn't pass. It wasn't even close. They missed it by about 12 votes. 14 members or 15 members of our own caucus didn't vote for it. And we had 4 out of the Democratic caucus, all out of Detroit, and that's their vote. I wasn't mad at them for doing that. So I hope we go back to the drawing board. I hope we're able to look at this. There's a bipartisan plan out there right now that has true cost savings. The bill never told you how much you were going to save. You're going to save money on your PIP charge. It never said in year 1, year 2, year 3. The new bills do. It has a fraud component just like the other one. It also gets rid of redlining, which I think is really strong. So I will keep you updated on that, and I'm sorry that I could not vote for it to give some relief right now. I just thought the benefits were not good enough, and we can do better for the residents of Michigan, especially Wayne and Westland. So I walked in my office the other day, and I'll be done, and they had all these streamers, my staff. And I'm like, what is going on? And they had congratulations. And I'm like, okay, what did I do now? So I walked in my office, and there's 3 huge balloons. There's a 1, 0, and a 0, pink. I'm like, do they really think I'm 100, my staff? And I walked in, and I'm like, what's going on? I did not get it. Well, I gave my staff, not an ultimatum, I said, this is our goal. I want to get 100 bills. I'm not just bills that don't mean anything. So we hit our 100th bill about 2 weeks ago. We're up at 107 right now. That is probably more than the whole Democratic Party, total, out of the 47 members. But, I like to brag about it because it's all good stuff. A lot of them are ideas from our residents that came to me and said, hey, we need this, we need that. We have veteran laws in there that we're trying to get benefits for veterans, jobs for veterans. If you went on my webpage, you would see there's no fluff in there. I mean, it's all stuff that kind of makes sense. Now if I can just talk to the other side of the aisle and make them take them up. I am getting a lot of hearings. I'd like to tell you that because I've had 4 hearings in the last 2 weeks, so things are starting to move a little bit. And please, as always, call me with any questions or concerns. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good job.
All right, the next item then is item 3A, a presentation by Maxwell Cameron from the Wayne Main Street and Lori Goen, Community Development Director, about the upcoming downtown holiday marketing campaign.
Good evening again, Mayor and members of the council.
Good evening.
Really excited to stand before you tonight to talk about our downtown holiday shopping campaign. Once again this year, the Downtown Development Authority has partnered with Wayne Main Street. We've put it's about a 6-week campaign together. Portion of the campaign will be through print advertising. If you grab the dispatch out in the hallway, we've got a great half-page ad in there today. We will also have a very, very large presence on social media. I'm going to let Maxwell talk to you a little bit. We did add a new twist to the campaign this year. It's something we're very excited about, and it's something that's really going to create awareness for the businesses in our downtown and get people to shop in downtown. So, Maxwell, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Lori. Good evening, Mayor and members of council. I'm Maxwell Cameron with Wayne Main Street. As Lori mentioned, we're super excited about this year's holiday marketing campaign. We tried to make it as comprehensive as possible. In addition to the print ads that we're going to be doing, we also did a Valpak mailing to 30,000 homes in Wayne, Westland, and Garden City. We're doing physical activations through our Small Business Saturday event, which will take place on Saturday, November 25th. We're also looking for your approval a little bit later on the agenda for another event where we're going to host Santa, have him go around to stores here in Wayne, get some great photos. And as Lori mentioned, the new element this year to the campaign is our $1,000 shopping spree. So individuals will be able to register either on our website or through Facebook to participate in the campaign. We'll have one drawing for the winner of $1,000 to spend at some great Wayne downtown retailers on December the 16th. Right now, we're working on confirming our participating stores, so we'll have more news about that coming up. But we're really excited, again, to have a wraparound, a comprehensive marketing campaign aimed at driving people into our special city this time of year and hopefully spend their dollars here in Wayne.
That's it?
That's all that I
That's it?
have.
Okay. Are there any
Any
questions?
questions?
No? Okay. Thank you very much, Maxwell.
Thank you.
I think that's, the next item is item 4, requests. Item 4A is to approve a request from Wayne Main Street to use Derby's Alley on
Move to
Saturday.
Move to approve.
Support.
Okay. It's been moved by Mayor Pro Tem Miller and supported by Councilman Gabriel. Matt, do you have anything you wish to say on this? Maxwell?
I think you may have gotten a memo in your packet about this event. Pretty simple. We're working to coordinate Santa here in downtown Wayne. This event will take place in the afternoon. It's the same day as the holiday tree lighting. So we're excited to have Santa here for most of that Saturday. It'll be an opportunity to connect this great event with downtown shopping. And also, this is something that's supported by our grant through the Michigan Realtors Association for use of Derby's Alley for placemaking activities.
All right. Any questions? No? All right. It's been moved and supported. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Maxwell.
The next item is item 5, bid awards. Item 5A is to approve the bid award for various electrical improvements at Gowdy Park. This will be paid by a Michigan DNR grant. This approval is subject to the written contract acceptable to both the city and the vendor.
Madam Mayor, I motion to approve the low bid of CRG Electric from Melissa, Michigan for $11,746.
Support.
It's been moved by Councilman Sanders and supported by Councilman Porter. Is there any
Webster.
questions? I'm sorry,
Councilman Webster.
Could they,
your
for-
voice.
Mayor Rowe, can they, for the public, explain what the improvements, electrical improvements will be?
Let's see, Michael, could you explain?
What are we spending $11,746 for?
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. We have many outlets, electrical fixtures that are in our Gowdy Park area and around our City Hall building. And over time, they have either lost their plates that cover them, or they have the guts of the fixture have come out. Some light bulbs have burned out, and so there's nothing that's particularly big in all of this picture. It's just a bunch of miscellaneous repairs to help bring our electrical system in the area back up to what it should be.
Mayor Rowe?
Yes.
Can I ask, is it wise for us to fix the electrical first and then try to deal with the structural integrity of the building or the structure itself?
These electrical outlets would be like in the park area,
Okay.
maybe on the outside of the building, but nothing
Not
that-
on the pavilion itself?
Not on, there might be one on the pavilion. I'd have to double check or look into that, but if it is, it would be very superficial and it wouldn't affect the structure at all.
Any other questions? Okay, it was moved by Councilman Sanders, supported by Councilman Webster. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries.
The next item is item 6, business licenses and permits. Item 6A is to approve the transfer of a materials recovery license from Red Metals Recycling to Wayne Car and Truck Parts at 34939 Brush Street.
Move approval.
Support.
It was moved by Councilman Webster, supported by Councilman Sanders. Any discussion?
Yes.
Yes.
Madam Mayor, just so, because I guess I should have asked this question before now, but what is involved in a transfer of a license?
The we issue annual licenses at these locations for materials recovery facilities. So in fact, when, in our ordinance, it states that if a new owner comes in during that year, they're required to pay the fee, and then also, if there were any issues that were outstanding from the C of O, it would be rechecked at that time. And so we did do that. They applied, they are the new owners at that location, and it did meet all the requirements of the ordinance. And then it comes before you for the transfer of that.
Because hasn't this transferred several times?
Yes, this is the third time it's been transferred.
Right. What, and the reason just is because they want to get out of the business, or?
I don't know the reasons.
Thank you.
Right. It's been moved and supported. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Next item is item 7, ordinances and amendments. Item 7A and B were in regards to rental issues and ordinances there, and they're going to be looked at further, so they'll come back at another meeting. So the first item here is item 7C. This is a second reading of ordinance 2017-04, and this is regarding police alarms.
Motion to approve.
Support.
It's been moved by Councilman Porter, supported by Councilman Racy. Are there any questions for discussion? No? Yes?
Would you read it, please? As a requirement of the law, it will be available at the clerk's office, and I will publish a partial in the newspaper because it is quite lengthy.
Yes. It is
It's 5 or 6 pages.
6 pages long. It's 6 pages long, so it will be available after it's passed.
Well, understanding you have a voluminous amount of paperwork to look at, my question is, the second reading of this item, not all council persons were here at that time, and I made some suggestions, and therefore, this is the first reading that you had. This is now number 2, and I had some questions with what you proposed in your ordinance to make some amendments, of which you haven't followed through with. How many runs are these? Is this being done to businesses only, as it's stated? Yet there are still the amount of runs that go electronically from a certified, licensed Michigan contractor to the 911 dispatch operator. So are you going to, the question was, are you going to treat them the same? If so, I hoped with this second reading, you may have amended it or added some other language to it. I think it's very important because you want business here, but that business is here, but that's the only people you targeted in this ordinance. You did not ask for the general other people that have alarms, and the police department does respond to those 911 dispatches, as I outlined to you very easily, and so therefore, it does not mention anything about these calls coming in, where they're coming from. You have on your agenda today that you'd like some security controls here at City Hall. Now, that's being approved, I hope, by a licensed contractor who's certified by the state of Michigan to have a security alarm license. So therefore, I wish you'd stand back, take a look at it, and make sure that you're not just snap-holding a few people. Now, the first person, you said, somebody said they had 25 continuous runs to this one individual. Well, that's time for the people who responded to that run and who overview and look them. Maybe they should sit down on a piece of stationery from the city of Wayne and say, hey, maybe you ought to get your equipment back together again. Penalizing one, you're making it punitive for everybody. Go after just the one person and straighten it out. Other than that, you'll chase other people away.
Thank you. It's been moved and supported. Is there any further discussion?
Mayor Rowe?
Yes.
You know, I agree with the gentleman that just spoke here. This should reflect residents and businesses regardless. If there's multiple false alarms, this should be assessed. It does not matter who it's coming from.
Mayor, if I may.
Yes.
I'm going to just clarify.
Yes, please do.
This ordinance was written by me, reviewed by the chief. It absolutely applies to both residential and commercial users.
you.
Now, in general, are there more commercial users who have these types of alarms? Absolutely. When you think about an average home, I don't have one on my home. But the way that it's written, and I would direct your attention to, alarm user is specifically defined as a person, corporation, partnership, proprietorship, governmental or educational entity, or any other entity, and it goes on. So by definition, we have included a person, and residential would be included in this ordinance itself.
That's my clarification. Thank you.
Yes. Chief?
Good evening, Mayor and members of the City Council. And just so, too, if I can add some clarification from what Mr. Osborne had said. The goal of this ordinance, there are 2 false alarms before we even start charging at that point. So the goal of those 2 false alarms is to work with the business owner or resident to get that fixed before it gets to that third phase. So we're not automatically charging right away. We're going to do what we can. We're going to send letters. We're going to advise them of the ordinance and try to work with them. So we don't, the ultimate goal of this ordinance is to limit the amount of false alarms that police runs that go on so our resources can be better dispersed throughout the city.
All right. Any other questions for discussion? No? Okay. It's been moved and supported. All in favor of the second reading?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Next item is item 8, communications and reports. Item 8A is a memo from the Senior Service Director and a thank you from the Diamond of the Community Award winner Patricia Rice.
Classy.
Yes, thank you. It was an honor to be called by you and give me the news that I was chosen as the City of Wayne Diamond of the Community for 2017. That call was a total surprise. The Diamond Celebration on October 3rd was your organizing, purchasing of the charming table decorations, even the carnation flowers, and then being the master of ceremonies. I truly appreciate all of this time, Nancy, and made it a wonderful evening for me and all of my guests. That's signed Patricia Rice.
Thank you.
Next item is item 8B. This is a memo from the fire deputy, it's from the fire chief regarding the promotion of Jeremy Schneider to deputy fire chief.
Move approval.
Support.
A motion isn't necessary.
Right.
Yes.
Good evening, Mayor.
Good
Members of the
evening.
City Council. I wish that you would join myself and Fire Chief Mike Stratton in welcoming and congratulating our new Deputy Chief, Jeremy Snyder. Jeremy's promotion is obviously a result of my retirement, which is effective December 1st of this year at 1,700 hours. Jeremy, in the next few weeks, will be working with myself as well as the fire chief to get acclimated to his duties. Jeremy will be continuing to train, gather the information and experience that he needs to fulfill the requirements of the position. We ask that everybody work with him diligently. Please be patient. He has a lot to learn, but he's going to do a great job. He's exemplified since being hired in 2007 as being a very good employee, very knowledgeable, experienced, and I think he's going to carry this into his new position. So with that, Jeremy Snyder. There you go.
I would just like to thank the city, as well as the fire department. This is very humbling and an exciting experience for me. And I couldn't ask a more professional department to help lead into the future in this city. So I'd just like to thank all of you.
Thank you. Thank you for your dedication. Next
The
item.
next item is item 9, general items for consideration. Item 9A is to approve Budget Amendment 2018-01 to complete the bond obligation on the fire ladder truck and for additional funding for police department training.
Move to approve.
Support.
Okay, who did it first? Okay. Was moved by Mayor Pro Tem Miller, supported by Councilman Porter. Any questions for discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
The next item is item 9B, approve the sale of the 2008 E1 Bronto Skylift fire truck with the VIN number, I won't read all that, for $450,000 to the city of Albert Lee, Minnesota, and a $22,500 commission to Brindley Fire Equipment.
Move approval.
Okay, it was moved by Councilman Sanders, supported by Councilman Racy, or no, Webster, Councilman Webster. Any questions?
Good news.
Yes, good news. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Item 9C is to approve a professional service agreement with Camtronics in the amount not to exceed $14,400.66 for the installation of City Hall security devices to be paid from City Hall buildings and grounds.
Move approval.
Moved by Councilman Sanders, supported by Councilman Racy. Are there any discussions? No? Okay. Chief?
Good evening, Mayor, members of City Council.
Good evening.
Recently, I was approached by the city manager regarding the upgrading of security here at the City Hall building. I looked over the building, and obviously, just to backtrack a minute, obviously, we have the surveillance system going in at the police department. And I have Mr. Wellman here from Cantronics, who's leading that up with Jeff Martin, our IT. So basically, looking at the current security here, we have a lock and key, push-button doors. So she asked for my recommendation, or my professional recommendation on how security can be upgraded here. The good thing about what we have going in at the police department is that can work at any building in the city as far as a main terminal, to do the key card, key swipes, and also our video surveillance. So in looking at the main hallway here, obviously the entrance here is a key lock. But looking at the four doors here, the both that go into either side of City Hall from where the public enters and exits, I recommend that be key swiped. Number one, that also keeps a log. It protects the integrity of the building, showing who's coming and going. Also, there is a south door over here on this side, on the south side, that employees would enter and out of, and that would also be key swiped. There's also an addition of 4 surveillance cameras, 2 inside. One would be on the cashier, one would focus on the hallway, and then 5, and then there's 3 outside, 1 on the main door, 2 on either side to kind of look at the parking lot and around that area. So I have Mr. Wellman here to answer any questions that you may have.
Okay.
Mayor, Council.
Yes. I do have one question. Will these cameras, how far will they be able to see? Will they go out actually into the park area or just strictly the parking lot?
The cameras will be set around the building to cover just the parking lot.
Okay.
There will be some background coverage of the park, but the primary objective is to cover vehicles.
Okay.
That would be parking and then leaving, possibly in the course of an event.
Okay.
And that would aid police.
Okay. All right. Okay. Any questions from council?
Yes, Mayor, and I don't know who this will be directed to, the administration, but what has prompted this need of extra security here at this building?
Well, there was a recent incident, so that was kind of brought this to the forefront.
And how often these incidents occur here as pertain to?
This is, from what I can remember since I've been here, this may only be the first one that I remember.
Okay. That's the only questions I have, to be honest with you.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions?
I got.
Yes.
Can you explain why the cameras are so expensive per camera, and what's the difference between a camera that people would buy locally versus, it looks like they're like about over $1,000 a piece, based on what I'm reading?
Cameras themselves aren't $1,000 a piece.
It was
It's the cost.
285. Oh, here, 285.
I'm looking at it from this perspective.
Oh,
I'm just looking from the cost, from the breakdown So the cameras are the cheap part, it's not that expensive, I guess, for that part. I was basing it off of what I was reading here.
Any further questions? No? Okay. It's been moved and supported. All in favor?
There's a question
Aye.
out here.
Oh. I'm sorry. Yes, Ms. Fried? I'm sorry, I couldn't see around Jeff.
I'm sorry, ma'am.
I'm very grateful that they're finally doing this, because one day I was here and you had just installed the push-button entries, except for one thing. That door was not locked and shut, and so I was able to come into the chambers, which did not make me feel comfortable that I was able to do that, because then I have access to that door, as well as back at the manager and whoever else is back there. So that really worried me, and I did bring it to somebody's attention, but maybe they couldn't at that time do it. But I'm very grateful that you're doing this.
Thank you. Any further questions? All in favor? What? Where? Oh, I'm sorry, couldn't see you.
My only issue with this is, excuse me, I would have liked to have seen this one out to a minimum of 3 bidders instead of being lumped in with the company that supplied the cameras and security for the police department.
Can you speak to that issue at all, Chief?
Sure, obviously, this is, we purchased the system already for the police department, so this is just an add-on. So if we were to go out to bid on this, we'd have to get another system here, a standalone system. So basically, we want to keep building on this, so to go out to bid, I mean, we already have the system purchased, so we're just adding on to it.
Okay.
Madam Mayor.
Yes.
All right, so if I recall, I plan on voting for this, but as I recall, the question was asked when we bought the system from the police department, that if we were to add other systems, that we necessarily wouldn't have to use Camtronics, that we could do stuff and that could tie into that system. So now we're committed to Camtronics for anything we want to do? Well, that seems like a,
I mean, and it's council's wish. I mean, we can go out to bid on it also. I mean, if that's definitely something we can do and have somebody add on to the system, sure.
well, it's within the city manager's purveyance, within the dollar amount, right? I mean, it's this professional services agreement, right? We don't have to go out for bid necessarily.
It's not a requirement.
Pardon me?
It's not a
requi-
requirement.
No, okay.
From your experience, or whatever, would it be exponentially cheaper to go out to bid? And is it something that if we tabled it, that we could go out to bid and see what the price is?
We could, sure.
Would anyone be opposed to that?
I would rather at least go that avenue before, because right now I'm not feeling it.
I'm feeling it, I want to do due diligence.
That's where I'm not feeling.
Yes,
Mayor, I got a question.
certainly.
Chief, do you consider this a safety issue that we should be looking at this sooner than later?
Well, and I just think that, I mean, I really think the building is behind times in security. I think with today's day and age, the technology that's out there, we need to better protect the public and the employees here at the building. So when you have accountability and you have the integrity of the building secure, it's a win-win. So I think at some point, we have to do this at some point, and to go out to bid, I can put a bid spec together tomorrow and go out to bid if that's what you wish, or we can move forward.
Is the safety concern so dire that we couldn't go out to bid?
I mean, I think we can go out to bid. I don't see that being an option. We have to do it today, because we're looking, even if it gets approved tonight, we're looking at how long do you think till everything gets installed? About 2 weeks. So, but, I mean, you're looking at the next council meeting, so by the time we
2
go out
weeks
to bid, we're looking at probably,
Another
Mr.
month.
Miller, if you could.
A month
I
is
mean,
fine.
We're looking at 2-3 week bid process probably, once
Yes,
it goes out.
pretty out.
A bid opening, then come back to council. We're probably looking at the last council meeting in December.
And maybe, it also, you have to take into a factor, just it's the cost, the whole process, the staff time. We're down, the chief's hourly rate, my hourly rate, Mike Byton's hourly rate, putting on Mitten, those things are factors also. So we would have to make an equation to see.
But aren't
is
those
the
factors
cost
in every
savings-
bid?
Pardon?
Aren't those factors in any bid?
They are in any bid.
And another point with going out to bid is that by doing it with Camtronics, we're simplifying the support through one vendor. moving forward.
But
If you
that
have
was the,
multiple vendors, then you get into situations of which one is responsible for a problem that's occurring.
I
if
respect
there's a
that.
problem.
I respect that. I'm just saying that that was the whole point, that when we went with Camtronics in the first place, that it was suggested that we could add to the system, not using,
Right, and if this was.
And if that was
several
not the
years
case,
down
we
the
should've-
road, But we're still finishing up over at
Right.
the police station, so we've already got a vendor on site that's still, getting the system
Yeah, we still
installed.
have, what do you say, about another month probably?
Probably.
To get through our project there, yeah. So they're still on site, they're at my building almost every day during the week.
Okay, okay. All right,
Mayor,
yes, further
You know,
questions?
No, it's not a question.
Okay.
But it just makes me wonder is that I understand why we need the security we need at the police station. I'm just not understanding the immediate need for here at the City Hall to upgrade it. What leads to, what's next? The library, the other public buildings? I'm not, I just don't see it right now at this time.
Madam Mayor,
With all due
I
respect.
support the security issue, because security should be of utmost importance of any member of the staff or anything. So that's not my issue. My issue is I would just like to see it go out for bid. If I can get someone to,
I will support that.
but we have a motion on the table.
We have a motion on the floor right now to approve this bid and this project.
Because
Any
Vern brings up
further
a very good
discussion?
point,
Yeah.
too.
Any further discussion? No? Okay, all in favor of going ahead with Camtronics? Aye?
Aye.
Aye.
No.
Opposed?
No.
Opposed?
No.
No.
Okay, all right.
So it was 4-3 that it was approved. All right, the motion was approved.
Okay.
Mayor, I got one question.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Just
Yes.
for the folks at home, Chief, that's a really nice mustache I see you putting in there.
Thank you very much.
Movember.
That was your comment? Oh, okay.
The ne-
Yes, I know.
The next item was 9D, and that was removed. That was also part of the rental fees also. So we're moving the agenda to item 9E. This is to approve the amendment and increase to the EMS, Emergency Medical Services fees by resolution that are charged by the fire department.
Move approval.
Support.
It was moved by Councilman Sanders, supported by Mayor Pro Tem Miller for the change in the fees. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, gentlemen.
Item
And
nine.
these, I just had, I'm sorry, one question. These will go into effect when, Fred?
Mayor, they'll go into effect as soon as we get the resolution, and we're
Okay.
able to send it to the billing company.
Okay, all right,
So 5 to 7 days.
okay. Thank you. Yes, Mr. Amos? Please, quiet in the audience.
Mayor and City Council, I've made recommendations in the past to multiple members of the staff and to the fire department that we charge fees for the EMS to respond to traffic accidents and home emergencies. I've suggested in the past that when the tanker truck responds also with the EMS truck, even if it just responds like, in my case, that it responded to an emergency at my home a few weeks back, that my insurance company, my homeowner's insurance company, that I've been paying for over 40 years without any claims, should be billed for the use of the manpower to respond to my emergency and the equipment costs to respond to that emergency. Instead of that, money to pay for that equipment and those man-hours coming out of the general fund, it should come against my homeowner's insurance, just like this would be on an EMS run.
Okay, all right.
Thank you.
Can we look into that?
We have.
We have, okay. Could you give us a report then on that? Okay, thank you.
The next
7.
item is item 9F. This is to approve a listing agreement number 2 with Colliers for the listing of 5 properties.
Wish of council.
Motion to approve.
Support.
It's been moved by Councilman Porter, supported by Councilman Webster. Are there any questions regarding this?
Yes, I have a question.
Yes, Councilman Sanders.
I'm trying to find it first. If there's any other questions, go ahead and take them. I'm just looking
Are
for
there
it.
any other questions from anyone?
I would like to ask through the chair to the city attorney.
Yes.
Did we go to Colliers and ask them about removing the requirement of paying the commissions, even if it's not a permitted use or a good use?
That communication didn't occur through my office, but it's my understanding they've been asked regarding that, and they're not willing to remove that provision. But I would point out to you that we have placed in these agreements reference like the WABC building, and I think the parks, since Lori, through her job as community development, has had conversations with a couple people about potential properties. We have included in the agreements that in the event a sale occurs with reference to those parties, we will not pay a commission fee at all. So anytime we had an interested party that pre-existed the Colliers agreement, we worked to include them in that agreement so that we could avoid paying a fee to Colliers should a sale come through on those particular properties. So they were not willing to remove the provision that you speak of, Councilman, but we did the best we could to include any interested parties in the agreement so that we could avoid paying a fee on anyone that she has already reached out to or spoke with, or such as the WABC if we've already had a prior offer. So those parties have been included in those particular agreements to try to recoup or save some money in the event any of those deals go through.
Okay.
Thank you.
And did you find your question?
Yes.
Okay.
With regard to the ABC building,
Which parcel is that?
C
and D?
The ABC building.
Okay.
I think it's C.
Okay.
I'm perplexed because when this came before us, and Mayor, you were one of the people that came to me, and the administration as well, clamoring that we got to unload this building because the ceiling's falling in, the walls, going to be falling down, that's on the embankment, and the furnace is outdated. Whereas the people at Colliers say the exact opposite, that it's in unbelievably in good condition. So what is the deal? Do you remember having that conversation?
Yes, and that was what I was told
By whom?
by our folks in building and DPW when the constant maintenance that has to be done on that building.
Well, that's not what the professionals say.
Well, that
And they're asking
85,000.
195,000 for it, which I don't necessarily think that, one of the detractors were that it's been on the for a long time, but it's a little disingenuous to misrepresent a property to try to unload when that is not true fact.
Well, I don't
And-
know what to say to that.
And I appreciate that, and I
don't know
appreciate.
what to say.
Thank you.
Mhm.
But I do support this Collier's listing.
Mayor, I've got a
Yes.
question. Didn't we have to put some money into that, to that building because the boiler system was messed up and stuff? Or did we do that?
Not since I sat on here.
I mean, I can answer that.
Yeah.
When the CWCSA, Central Wayne County Sanitation Authority, was in the building, we had a lot of heating issues. The DPW was over there consistently fixing boiler problems and checking into the issues that were, coming to fruition on that building. To say it's flawless, I'm going to say that I'm going to respectfully disagree with Colliers, because I have to take the advisement of our building and engineering department and our DPW.
But but I agree, I support that, but my point being is that these are people who have to represent this property to potential investors, and I doubt that they're going to list in here things that are not accurate.
Mayor, if I may, please.
Yes.
Councilman Sanders, this was a communication that was given to the city council. This has not been distributed anywhere. So
Okay.
to say that, I
It's
really
gonna be
don't want
public
you to say that Colliers is misrepresenting themselves at this point. This has not been distributed anywhere. And I did notice that on the executive summary. This listing sheet has not been made yet.
But it will.
And this is one of the items that I have to address with Mr. McGrath, Peter McGrath, to let him know that, to say well-maintained, I need to let him know more of the condition of the building. I don't think it's going to fall down tomorrow, but that was one of the items that this has not been released. This was an item for
I
the council's
understand what
eyes.
that means.
Well, great.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions?
Yes. So that means, Lori, before you leave, that means that there's a
Sorry.
good possibility that it could be lower than $195,000 if you convey that to Colliers and they determine that it is not.
Well, I guess that's a good point, but I guess my question is that I would want to know from our Buildings and Engineering Department what they feel the major issues are with that building that I can present to Colliers so they have a fair assessment of the condition of the building. Mayor, would you say that would be accurate?
Yes, I agree.
And al-
I agree.
also to say that the asking price of $195,000 is just showing how we misrepresented it before. You have to remember that if Colliers sells it, we're going to take $11,000 right off the top before we consider what it cost us in lost taxes, what it cost us in maintenance, what it cost us in heating it over the winter. It's not that great a big difference in the $150,000 that we offered for sale before.
Any further questions? No? Okay, it's been moved by Councilman
Order?
Porter and supported by Councilman Webster. Any further discussion? All in favor? Yes, Ms. Pride?
I did notice that you said something about parks. So what parks are up for grabs?
It's the two parks that have been on our list since we started with Colliers, Kiwanis Park and J.C. Park.
The J.C. Park? Mm-hmm. And what's the other one?
Kiwanis.
Okay.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Motion carries with one no.
Okay, the next item is item 9G. This is to approve an amendment of the lease agreement with Wayne County for space in the Wayne Police Department from the lease approved on September 19th, 2017. And this, of course, is subject to a rent agreement to both the city and the lessee.
Move approval.
Support.
Okay, it's been moved by Councilman Sanders and supported by Mayor Pro Tem Miller. Any questions? Yes.
I would like to bring it to the attention of the city council and the mayor that, in my opinion, this is not a good lease agreement. We have the available space in the police department, and thus we ought to utilize it by moving City Hall into that facility and then putting this building on the sale block. I think it would behoove the city to have it on a main location on Michigan Avenue. And this would give us another property that would bring in some revenue rather than this mere smittens that the Wayne County Sheriff's going to give us.
Thank you. Any further questions? No? All in favor?
Mayor.
Yes.
Just upon that point that was brought up, have we researched moving City Hall into that as far as a space available and it being enough to occupy with everything that goes on here in City Hall?
Yes. Who? Chief. Chief? Yes, if whoever can.
Mayor, members of the City Council. One of the things we have to remember while we're broaching this is that when the police department was built, it was built for police, basically, the police services, the police building. So the way the building's set up, even though right now we're talking about this lease with Wayne County, there's several adjustments that had to be made in that building just to secure that area that they're going into. You have to understand that we have issues with security with the officers. Obviously, we make arrests, we bring defendants and suspects in the station, and you have victims in the station as well. So number one, there's just not enough room to accommodate City Hall, number one. And just the dynamics of the building and the way it was built, it wasn't built for a multi-purpose. Like I said, the lease alone, we have to do some things to make that secure, and that's to add some secure doors, some extra card readers inside the police building to secure not only the Wayne County workers, but also the police employees to make sure that they're also safe. We're accommodating both uses there in that building. And I hope one day that we can transition back to not having Wayne County in the building and us having more officers and reutilize those offices for what that's for, traffic division, community policing, things like that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, it's been moved and supported. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Next item is item 9H. This is to approve a lease agreement with Ortem Associates Limited Partnership for the lease of approximately 300 square feet at the MPC building at 3850 Second Street for the storage of election equipment for $150 a month on a month-to-month basis, subject to a written agreement acceptable to both the city and the lessor.
Move approval.
Support.
It's been moved by Councilman Webster and supported by Councilman Sanders. Any discussion?
Yes.
Questions, Mayor?
I would-
You have?
Yep.
Councilman Racy.
Go ahead.
Is there specific reasons, I see the 300 square feet, there's not any other places in town, in our own buildings, that we can put that?
We did, we looked at all of the available buildings that are open and operational,
Okay.
and there isn't a spot for the equipment to go.
Is it security issues? or is
Security, it's also got to be, we have to have electricity, it has to be climate controlled, all those things. We can't put them in the garage, we can't put them in basements. Those kinds of things are to be taken into a consideration. It also has to be secured at all times. So we need to have a locking area that no one else can get to other than, say, myself. The police chief used to have that. So again, this was the only alternative to do that. I'm being displaced. I need to find a place for all the election equipment to go.
I just wanted to clarify that. Thank you.
Okay.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
out of curiosity, how did we come up with 50 cents a square foot?
This was, the youth services is in that building also, and they're paying a similar rate, but they're at a little higher rate because they're a full suite, and we're really getting we're getting a portion of one of the suites that was there, so we used it based on the youth services agreement.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Yes.
Madam Mayor.
Yes.
This MPC, this is a private building, company that you're gonna lease from?
Yes.
Okay. Was over there doing some work over there at a great, DPW yard. When you were on board, we had a DPW yard and we had to move our fire department. And they had to make the fire department accessible 24 hours, bunking, security, everything, inclusive of our DPW. When was the last time you walked around the DPW building and seen how great it is over there? Still have all the access. You ought to see the cameras. You ought to see Mr. Queen's office and the extra area. Sorry I took advantage of you today, Mr. Queen. But for the amount of the day-to-day high-security services, when I got to show my ID to go in and drop some garbage, here we got a camera already and we can see who's getting into this election equipment. And for this mere space of month-to-month basis and going to somebody else, we've got enough space of our own to put this in. You just heard the chief saying, we've got these people renting out over there at his place, but I got to do some modifications to bring up the security at my own Wayne Police Department. We have barely got to make too much modifications to be spending out, once again, our public money from our general fund at a here and there, $150 a month, this, that, and the other. You're either on board or you're not on board. You're going to save some money or not. Okay?
Thank you.
Your space is available. Get on over there to the DPW place, start using the space.
Yes, Mr. Blackwell.
I just want to say, this is an agenda item, and I noticed the clock running, so to the council rules, the time only pertains to items not on the agenda. So when a citizen's up here, or say a sovereign person's up here, that clock shouldn't be running.
Any further questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
The next item is 9I. This is to approve the amendment of the procedures and rules of the City Council. Section 4, Agenda, Item 4.1, and this is to move item number 19, Administration Reports, to item 16, so that it is placed before the public comments on matters not on the agenda.
Move
approval.
Was moved by Councilman Porter and supported by Councilman Sanders. All in favor?
I had
No discussion, yeah, discussion, I'm
I
sorry.
had a thought about this.
Yes.
Maybe what the better thing would be to do is, before that, to have two different reports, maybe one that's just a segment that says, report from the last council meeting, and then keep where she's doing what she was doing, where it was at. And then you deal with that, and then it would keep what she's wanting to do. It doesn't add more stuff to the whole thing.
I don't see how it's adding anything. It's just, if she has nothing to report from the last council meeting, there's nothing to report.
It just said that item is where it would be before
They're all,
citizens speak.
it's before the
And then-
citizens speak, yes.
And then she speaks after the citizens speak.
But I look at it as this is part of the business meeting, and the business meeting is before the citizens speak. That's how I look at it.
Mayor.
It's my opinion, yes.
You know, I thought we were making this move just to help kind of
Right.
answer some of the questions that are always raised, and just let the city manager address some of those concerns, and that way we can be a little bit more efficient with our meetings and answering questions for the residents here, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Let's just keep it that way.
Okay. Okay, it's been moved by Councilman Porter, supported by Councilman Sanders. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Next item is item 9J. This is to approve the amendment of the procedures and rules of the City Council. Section 5, Recording of Records. Item 5.3 for the retention of City Council videos regarding recording for a period of 5 calendar years.
Jeffrey?
Good evening. Matt and I discussed the retention of the recordings for the council meetings, and we came up with 5 years as an appropriate time to retain those. That's on par with other items that are retained.
Okay. Any questions for Jeff?
Mike, I have a question.
Yes.
Why, is there a difficulty in just keeping them indefinite?
Well, when you get into indefinite, then
That's
you're
what I'm
talking.
asking.
Yeah, then you're talking about formats, technology changes. Then you're gonna have to get into some costs of how you're going to maintain these over the years. 5 years is kind of a reasonable amount of time with the changes of technology.
But all that technology can be, if you wanted to convert it, say, for example, from 8-track to cassette, if it was necessary, you would be able to do it. I'm not implying that we have to keep it up to the technology of the future, but it to always be there if for whatever reason, someone wants to look back, from 10 years ago and say, hey, I want to see what the heck went on that moment.
Right, the cost and time for what it would take to make those jumps then as technology changes would get to be more and more of a problem.
Okay.
Would that cost, oh, pardon me, Madam Mayor.
Yes.
Would that cost be part of the FOIA costs?
Yeah, if council meeting information is FOIA'd and then you have to go back to make available a meeting, and you're going back to, say, VHS, then it's going to be a more lengthy process than if you're going to, a digital.
Is there any cost administered by the city during a FOIA request?
Maybe I can answer.
I can answer that question. The city is allowed to charge a fee for the amount of time it takes to locate an item pursuant to FOIA. The cost in converting that item from one format to another is not includable as a cost permitted under FOIA. And actually, I think I just did one today where I think we can only charge 35 cents for the disc that we burn it when we use a CD. So in that regard, we're very limited. FOIA is only intended to cover costs, and a lot of situations does not cover costs because we cannot charge for the first 15 minutes. So if it's 15 minutes or less, we can't recover that cost. Otherwise, we have to charge in 15-minute increments, and we can only charge for the cost of locating the item, and then we can charge for the disc that we put it on and/or the paper we print to, and then the postage for mailing. We cannot recover a cost or pass a cost on to a citizen under FOIA for the cost of converting it to a more recent media.
Thank you.
Good answer.
Okay.
I got
Yes.
Questions. Since we're all digital now, couldn't we just have flash drives available and they just put them on a flash drive and then you can charge for a flash drive?
Well, you could hand out the media in any way,
Yeah.
whether it be a CD, DVD or a
Because you'd have to
CD
convert
flash
it,
drive.
because how you're doing it now, you'd have to convert it to DVD and it'd
Right.
actually take you longer.
Right, well, yeah, and retaining those on a flash drive,
It just, you don't know.
Right.
I understand that. And then the other thing is, maybe after the 5 years, could they just go over to the museum and they could, let them store them at the museum at that point?
yeah, but then
I mean,
you
if
want to
it-
try and avoid the expectation that this is, when you put this media in, it's going to work. If you're putting in a 25-year-old VHS tape, before you hit play that it may not work.
Yeah, I understand. I know other communities have been keeping all of their stuff just because it's the history of their city. I know when we're doing our agenda or our minutes, the things that the council says at the end doesn't get recorded. There's things that the citizens don't get recorded. It's missing stuff that if people really want to get a feel of what happened, it's gone. And so, I'd like to see it left over at the museum or somewhere that people could still have access to it in the future if they'd like to. And I understand the technology side of it, if technology changed to where they can't, but to eliminate that just because we want to, I just think that would be a mistake.
We don't have a motion on the table at this
Correct,
point
there's
to
no
be having a
motion.
discussion.
Yes. So is there a motion?
There's a question.
Yeah, I know, but we need a motion.
I move to approve.
Okay, is there support? Is there support? Well, then we'll have no discussion.
I'll support it.
I want,
I just want to hear the
Okay.
rest of the conversation,
yes,
because I
yes.
feel that 5 years I was as upset as anybody else when the meetings disappeared, okay? But 5 years gives us a lot of time to sit here and decide, us and the next council after us, whether we want to retain them some way, and maybe by then the technology will change. But 5 years is quite a long time down the road, so I don't see a problem with the 5 year at this time.
Okay, yes. Mayor,
I
City
would like
Clerk.
to maybe correct. They didn't disappear. We were following the procedures that were established. But also, anyways, the other thought that we had is that each term of council is 4 years, and then it would be one additional year, so that next council, when they establish the next rules, could maybe make an adjustment. I know that we can make adjustments as we go along,
Right.
but it's a full change maybe every 4 years with, 3 and 3. And so we thought at that period, then it would be, 2 elections, then 1 extra year, and then we could, the council in place at that time could review it.
Right.
It went from 90 days, though, which was historically always what we've done, to 5 years, which is a big increase.
Okay, all right.
Mayor?
Any other, yes.
My other concern is that, if we go with this, I think it should be a provision that council or somebody would decide before it gets eliminated. That's not in here, so that we don't have the same situation that we're in right now. I think that needs to be fixed before I would approve what we're currently looking at.
So do you want it to state that the city clerk and the
Yeah. well, 'cause
IT person would,
In 5 years, they're just going along, and all of a sudden, it's 5 year mark, and things just start disappearing, and nobody realizes it. The same thing, I understand that we see it now, we don't know what the future holds, and if they want to do it and then it just disappears, and they never had a chance to say, wait a second, we really would like to keep that in the future. I'm just trying to protect the future. That's one of the things I think that we forget about in our community is how do we maintain things? How do we do things in the future? And I really think that we should be looking forward to, I don't know if people would want it in the future or not. But I think if we have it, it's available, why not let them have the availability?
Madam Mayor, but doesn't I don't want to belabor this anymore, but doesn't the council, as the clerk says, doesn't the council have a right to revisit this when a new council takes over or whatever? I mean, it's not going to be like, I don't anticipate it happening where, I would assume it's going to be a rolling, okay?
Right.
All right, it's now a year from, or 5 years from November, so those meetings are off. But, I mean, and if anyone needs it for FOIA, I would assume they would have a FOIA issue. Well, first of all, they wouldn't even need FOIA at that point. They could just go on the internet and get it themselves. I just don't understand it. I don't understand why we spent 20 minutes on this.
Mayor, well,
Yes.
real quick here.
Yes.
Every 2 weeks, one drops off. So it's either you say, listen, we're going to keep all of them, for the next 5 years, period. And at that point, maybe that what Councilman Racy suggested, that then, a decision will be made as how we're going to handle this any further. Okay? Because right now, you say 5 years, well, it's 5 years for every 2 weeks, because that one drops off. So, get what I'm getting, is that what I'm to assume here?
It would be at the end of the.
All of them will be retained regardless for 5 years period till 2020.
Yes.
Maybe I could clarify a little. In there, when it says the calendar year, what we were looking at is that on a yearly basis at, January 1st.
Okay.
5 years from now, so all these will be retained in 17. Then we'll go to 5 years from 17, which is 2022. Then we will, at that time, the 2017s will come off, and then we'll just have 18, 19, 20, it'll be the
Okay,
calendar
gotcha.
year. It's not going to be, because that's kind of staff intensive where somebody's got to monitor.
Right.
And we figured that if we had the calendar year, it'll really be almost 6 years will be up, and then the 1 year will fall. And then that's how it'll go. These are, they're FOIAble while they're up, but the only FOIAble permanent records, again,
Are
is
the
the
minutes.
abstract and the minutes.
Right. Okay. All right. Any questions? Yes, Ms. Pride.
I remember a while ago that you were able to go into the library if you didn't have access to it on television. And then the cable companies came forth and said that they would put it on for the customers to be able to watch. Why can't it still be that way? Because even though we're moving forward with technology, there are people that don't have hard drives and they don't have the availability to have those kind of things. And maybe they can't even afford cable. So they should have some way to be able to go into the library, which will keep the library vital again, to be able to view these inside the library. They don't leave the library. What does it take? This is an hour, approximately. So why couldn't we do that? I do have some VHS tapes from many, many years ago of council meetings that I could record off of my television. And I have a VHA player. So, yeah, they need to be saved. I don't understand who made the decision that within 2 weeks there were going to be things removed. That should never have happened.
Okay. It's been moved and supported. All in favor of the recommendation? Yes. Yes.
Osborne, I'm right behind Miss Pride. One day, we stood right here with a tripod, and it was your Wayne Cable Company here. I don't know what the big deal is about these records, but why don't you keep them? So you don't report back of, I don't think it should be a city council who should decide what we're going to keep and what we're not going to keep. as Mr. Honorable Race has suggested and stated to you, some things get cut off that he wants to see. It's not there. So let's have a reason why. There's no, as the technology goes on, it goes on. We've gone from VHS, we've gone to this, and we've gone to paper. I can look at documents and see what's been going on here for over 150 years. Got no problem changing over. Go to your library. These are electronic files, and however they are, then you transpose them to the modern day as they keep going. But let's deposit them in a safe library. As I've mentioned, there are some people, I guess you haven't mentioned any, companies that actually store things like a Mint, okay? I asked you about the Federal Retention Act. I haven't heard anything back from you in 3 meetings. The Federal Records Retention Act. So, you know, when you go to the hospital, a doctor's required to keep all those documents, as far as I know,
10 years.
forever.
10 years.
Pardon, ma'am? Doctor?
It is
What?
10 years.
Oh.
Because I had to request records in
Well,
this past
good
10
for you.
years.
Good. Then if you know it's 10 years, then let's make the city hall at least 10 years, because we can't have a council voting out what they're going to record and what not they're going to record. We got a recording person right here. Whoever that person is, they should decide, not the privy up here, what you're going to cut off and who you're not.
Thank you. It's been moved and supported. All in favor of the 5-year calendar retention? Aye?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
The motion carried.
6-1.
Okay, the next item is item 9K. This is to approve the purchase of Motorola radios for DPW vehicles in the amount of $56,766.25 to be paid from the water and sewer budget, which a portion of that is $53,716.25, and the general fund of $3,050, and an agreement with the Michigan Public Safety Communication System to activate the system.
Move approval.
Support.
It's been moved by Councilman Sanders, supported by Mayor Pro Tem Miller. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
The next item are citizens' comments or requests on items not on the agenda. Citizens are to limit their comments or requests to 3 minutes. The city council asks that if you do have a question or concern, to bring it to the attention of the appropriate departments whenever possible. If you feel that the matter has not been resolved satisfactorily, you are encouraged to bring it to the attention of the city manager, and if still not resolved satisfactorily, to the mayor and the city council. The mayor, the city council, and the department heads may not respond to the questions at the meeting, but will respond by the next council meeting or as soon as possible once they've looked into the matter.
Yes.
It's been mentioned several times about having a DPW employee over at the recycling center. I can solve that or bring some resolve to that. Hype is receiving a $12,000 a month taxpayer-funded subsidy. He's supposed to be doing community outreach with that. Well, I would urge council to talk to Mr. Syed to do some outreach to the community where his not-for-profit is located at. I'm sure he can kick back some money to the city that we're giving him to put somebody over there at least every other Saturday from noon to 3 p.m., which is, you know, a good idea. Second thing is, when did council approve to bid out services for city planning? Because I came up to City Hall, picked up a bid packet, and found out that part of Mr. Miller's job, which I believe Mr. Miller does have a master's degree in, for
Just a
doing city
bachelor's.
plan.
Just
city
a
planning.
bachelor's.
Okay. Well, sorry for inflating it a little bit. but-
My mom would like you. I'm sorry.
Well, I was just curious, is, because we're already paying him, are we actually saving money on this? If we are, how much? And I can wait 2 weeks for the answer. I know the finance girl is here. Or, in all reality, how much is this going to cost the taxpayers to bid this out? 'Cause you know, like I said, I hate to sound redundant, but we are paying Mr. Miller for that service. And what is Mr. Miller's pay or salary compared to his predecessor, who just did city clerk stuff? I know, I don't mean to sound derogatory, but Mr. Miller does really wear different hats. I'm just wondering what the cost effectiveness of this is. And another thing, I did put in a FOIA request for the October 3rd meeting with the clerk's office, and it went to the attorney, the law firm of Hassan Bond. I got back a letter, and I just wanted what the attorney presented, her presentation in regards to the Open Meetings Act and the 3-minute rule and stuff. And I got back extension. Now, that was on October 4th. I got an extension, or a letter for extension for October 25th, and it says, the reason for extension, the city needs to search for, collect, or properly examine or review, and I'm glad Mr. Osborne mentioned voluminous. It says a voluminous amount of separate and distinct public records pursuant to your request and other. The nature of the request requires additional time to search, locate, and separate non-public information. So this request was like cookies coming out of an oven. Council had a copy of
This is the end of the 3-minute time.
presentation, and so did the clerk's office, so, but.
We will have a report back to you in 2 weeks. Is
I
that okay?
appreciate it.
Thank you. Anyone else? Wait.
Bernadette Brock, John Hicks. First off, I want to mention something. Matt Miller and I don't get along, but he deserves the courtesy to finish what he's saying on this agenda before a motion is made for the people at home to hear it, Councilman Sanders.
Please.
We have to listen to your spew. We need to hear what he has to say. My husband was put on the library board. He chose that position, however it may be. After he resigned, someone close to the library said, Ms. Brock, you should really FOIA. So I did, and I have 180 pages, $39.01 of painful material, reading the director of the library and the president of the library board calling my husband ignorant, a clown, crazy. Somebody that goes out and cleans your parks, volunteers his time. That is ridiculous, and you guys allow it. Allow it. Was he perfect while he was on that board? Absolutely not. But any of you? No. He deserves an apology. I deserve an apology because your president called somebody, I have no idea who it is, and spoke derogatory about me. And I have it black and white when she wrote back to the director of the library telling her that he spoke about me, someone who gives to this community every day. Every day. It's disgusting. The people in this community need to start going to these boards and commission meetings and hold these people accountable for what goes on behind the scenes. It makes me sad that there's 180 pages of a library going back and forth. What happens between you guys' personal emails? Makes you wonder if a library director and a president of a library can call a citizen ignorant, crazy, and a clown. A few months ago, I was actually going to get up here, and the mayor asked me not to, because she was going to deal with it, and she didn't. Heartbreaking, disgusted, and I am a taxpayer. And when you go to put this mill for the library on, I will fight it tooth and nail. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, ma'am.
Hello, how y'all doing?
We're fine.
My name is Judy Pollins. I live at Newberry Square Apartments. And what I'm up here to talk about is the mess that's straight across from Wayne Towers, that building that they half tore down, left all the garbage and mess there. Haven't seen nothing go on, but I did see a bunch of people standing over there looking at it, shaking their heads. I would like to know, when are you gonna clean that up? Because I don't know how far a rat's range is, but it's probably full of rats by now. And it needs to be cleaned up. It's an eyesore and a pain in the tail. You look out your window, what do you see? Crumpled up building. I mean, we get aggravated with it. I'm sure people who drive through the city and see that think, ugh. You know, I've seen that here for months. Why would I want to move into a place like that? And that's my opinion for tonight.
Judy. City Attorney, could you at least answer that since it's a litigation?
Sure. The people that you saw standing around the site was myself, the demolition company, the insurance council, and every other party that needs to be involved in that particular project at this time. I cannot comment any more as to specifics because it is what I would consider to be a risk management issue at this point because of the fact that the demolition is at the point that it's at. There's a reason that it's been stopped. But I cannot provide any more specifics because of the fact that it is a potential pending litigation matter. Not that it's gotten to that point, but obviously there's a reason that it stopped and in the condition that it's in. I would just like you to know that it's been turned over to my office to handle from this point forward.
Okay.
And I'm working closely with the demolition company and their representatives to ensure that we can reach a resolution as quickly as possible so that citizens don't have to look at that.
Because I'm hoping that mess is gone by springtime, but I have my doubts.
Judy, I live in Wayne and drive by it every day too, and I feel your frustration
Bless
as a
you.
resident.
Bless you.
And it is one of my top legal priorities that I work on in the city. So I appreciate your frustration. I share the same frustration, and it is receiving the utmost attention from my office.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
Okay. Yes.
My concern about that building is that one day I was at the post office and I thought, well, gee, I'll just go right straight across past the theater around the corner and head out on Wayne Road a different way. Wow, that is a massive bunch of junk out in the roadway. I'd like the fire department to go down by the theater, go up the same way I did and see if you can turn to get into that Sims property that she's talking about. I don't think you'd make it. So now it's a hazard for fire, rescue, and other people that come back there. And because of the construction on Michigan Avenue, right there going west, people are no longer standing in that long line because they all have to shift over to the far lane to go straight through. They're going down Sims, and when they turn that first corner, they're going to meet a blockade, and now they have to turn around and come back out and then travel all the way around. So they're using it as a freeway. They have figured out that they can just forget that right-hand turn up at Michigan Avenue. I can go down this road, Sims Street, go through the parking lot, out by the theater, and it's clear sailing. But I think that they can remove part of the fence and get rid of that debris that is out in the roadway. There are no walls out there, nothing that can be disturbed other than getting rid of the debris. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? It's that time of the year.
It is. No, you're all happy to see me.
Yes.
Yes. It is Goodfellows time. I am a citizen of Wayne. I do live on Greenbush. I am the president of the Wayne Goodfellows, if anybody hasn't met me before. This year our party is December 9th. We did have to move it to Hellenic Cultural Center because Roma Hall closed. I know everybody was complimented on how great the party was last year, and we do appreciate that. Hoping that it moves along and just as great this year. We've already have probably almost 200 seats sold already. We don't have our tickets yet, Racy. We do appreciate you getting them first, though. I have flyers for the donations with the tax ID because we are a 501c3, so we are a tax deduction. And I do have some of the flyers for the party, so make sure you get your tickets as soon as I have them. Otherwise, we were planning on selling 350, and then we're going to call it sold out, so we have room for everybody to move around. We are also planning to have some dance music this year. Every year we get the complaint that we never had time to dance. I'm like, hey, listen, we had lots of raffles and a lot of great, generous people in the city that donated. So we're more importantly wanting to sell those raffle tickets and get those raffles out there. But we do want to entertain our crowd as well. So we're going to play some dance music while we're putting in the raffles and things like that. If anybody would like to donate, you can drop your donations off at Henry Service Center, Icon Computers, or at the fire department as well, because Kathy is back at the fire department. Or you can call me or message the Goodfellows on Facebook. One of our volunteers can come and pick it up. If you have any questions or if you know anybody that's in need, our applications are usually here at City Hall, they're at the fire department. I believe we have some at the library now too. Or give one of us a call and we'll be happy to email or drop them off to somebody if you know a family that's in need. That's about it for tonight.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it.
No problem.
Okay. Anyone else? No? Okay.
The next item is item 10, items for the next agenda.
Yes, I do have one item I'd like to place on there. We have been notified of the people that have submitted their names for the Ethics Committee, and I would like to have a recommendation from the city attorney as to how we should proceed for the setting up the Ethics Committee and moving forward with that. She will put it in writing for us, okay? So it'll be on the next agenda. Okay?
Okay, I've got that.
Anything else?
The next,
Oh, yes, and then the question regarding the trash cans placement.
okay.
Thank you.
And the next item is item
Yes.
11.
One
Yes,
other thing,
yes,
Mayor,
yes.
and I would be remiss if I not say it. Where are we at with, and where are we going with this award system? Okay? It's already been, what, who knows? 56 meetings, and we're still not knowing where we're at with this. And this is something that the voters approved and they want. Let's get this taken care of once and for all, please.
Okay.
I need clarification on that, Mayor, because I gave an opinion on the wards, and I
Yes.
thought that had resolved the matter, so if anything else is expected from me, I need to know a little bit more. If you're just going to have a general discussion next meeting, that's fine, if that's what Mayor Pro Tem Miller is asking for. But if he's directing me to answer any question as to the wards, I feel as if I probably addressed all questions that could possibly arise relative to its implementation, whether it was properly implemented according to the language provided to the state, and according to the recommendations made by the committee that was formed on it. So if there's going to be a specific legal question on the wards, I would just ask that I be provided that before the next meeting if there's going to be a discussion on it. I
So-
was under the impression that the opinion I provided had settled the matter.
Okay.
But I don't know if anybody else
There's
has a
nothing
different.
further for this council to do to implement it?
It's been properly implemented,
According
correct.
to the way it was passed.
According to the language approved by the state, that was submitted by the state, according to the language that was placed on the petitions themselves, according to the language that was printed on the ballots, and then according to the recommendation made by the committee that we formed on it. We went through all four of those steps in that opinion. So without some sort of change, another initiative, a petition, it would be properly implemented at this time. I would be happy to re-forward my opinion to council, and maybe that would prompt additional questions that you may have, Mayor Pro Tem Miller.
Well, I just want for the citizens to be satisfied with that result. That's what my concern is.
Okay. Anything else? No? All right, then. Move on.
Next item is item 11, consent calendar. There's only one item before you today.
Wish of council?
Move approval without exception.
Okay, it's been moved by Councilman Sanders. Is there support?
Support.
It's been supported by Councilman Webster. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Number 12 is administration reports.
Thank you. I just have a couple tonight. I know we've had a long evening. I just want to answer a couple questions that were brought up, and Matt and Lori may ask Matt to chime in on one of the questions. Mr. Osborne had asked at the last meeting when the city started charging and approved to charge the library the $50,000. Mr. Osborne had asked, are others charged for administrative costs and how much? And I want to thank Katie for helping me to put this together. There are a number of areas that the city does charge for administrative costs. Water and sewer fund, refuse collection and disposal fund, DDA, now the library, major street fund, and local street fund. And his other question, Mr. Osborne's other question was, why do we transfer funds like this? And it's because the general fund is a fund used to account for general operations and activities. A reasonable percentage of these general operation costs may be charged to other funds that benefit from the services, including accounting, IT, public safety, personnel, et cetera. So I hope that answers your question, Mr. Osborne. Keith Buckovich, I know he couldn't be at this meeting, so I'm sure he'll see the video. He had a question as well. He had asked, had there been any other offers on the WABC building since the first initial offer? Matt, would you just like to address that real quick?
There's been no additional offers at this time.
Correct. And I think the only one we had was pulled.
Yes.
Yes, that's correct. So, and then as far as the ethics question, I think that Mayor Rowe, you have answered that. Thank you. You put that on the next agenda to talk about. So that is it from my end. So I thank you.
Okay,
And the next item are comments from members of the city council.
okay. Councilman Sanders?
Nothing.
Okay. Councilman Gabriel?
Nothing today, Madam Mayor.
Okay. Mayor Pro Tem?
Just prayers for the victims in Texas over this past weekend. I don't know how tiring we are of hearing these sort of things in the news, and just wishing that our lawmakers would get serious about finding a solution or limiting this tragedies from reoccurring over the last decade. That's all.
Okay. And Councilman Porter?
Excuse me. Thank you, Mayor. Lenny Powell messaged me and asked me to make this announcement. He had a small accident, and he's at home resting in bed, so on behalf of Lenny and his family and HYPE, I wish to thank all of those that donated the candy in the donation boxes around town. It was a tremendous help. Since some of the tables started running out of candy early, it was extremely hard to judge how much candy was enough. So there was somewhere around 2,000 children walked through HYPE on that candy give out. So it was I helped give out at Lenny's table. My wife and I supplied about $100 worth of candy ourselves, and I almost got tired of saying, "You're welcome." The kids were fantastic, very mannerly, very great children that came through there. It was really fantastic. And the other announcement he had was he's going to be having another vendor and craft show, Ring in the Season at HYPE on December 10th from 12 to 5. So if you're interested in that, it's always a good show for that. Thank you. That's all.
Thank you. And Councilman Webster?
I just want to thank everyone that came out to the First Congregational Church's annual Christmas fair. It always is a great thing. They have a great dinner along with great candy and great baskets and other Christmas decorations. So thank you for everyone that came out and supported them. I know they appreciate it.
Councilman Racy?
Thank you, Mayor. The Congregational Church thing was great. One thing I noticed was kind of interesting. When Mayor Hawley was there, they always made him do dishes. They put Webster out in front where everybody could see him. So I thought that was kind of an interesting take on that. But I wanted to mention Bender's opened this last weekend, former Village Bar over on Michigan Avenue next to US 12. They've done a big reinvestment into that. It was really nice to see everything that they've done over there. That was really, really nice. And then mark it on your calendars, the holiday night at the museum is the 2nd of December. Will be coming up real quick. And then, for Jen, I have your tickets for the Goodfellas in my vehicle, donated from the Dispatch and Ute Funeral Home, so thank you.
And I would just like to state, I have two things here from the Senior Services Director. There's going to be an identity theft workshop with Michigan Department of Attorneys on Wednesday, December the 6th at 11 a.m., and it'll be in HYPE Recreation Center. So if you wish to go, Some of the highlights will be learn the signs of identity theft and fraud, learn how to protect your personal information online and off, and learn what to do if you become an identity theft victim. This time of the year, a lot of people use their credit cards online and such, so it's really important that you're aware of the sites that you're using your credit card on, and so I think this would be a great opportunity for anyone to go. You don't have to be a senior to attend. Again, that's Wednesday, December 6th at 11 a.m. And then consumer education, this is a program of Attorney General Bill Schuette, and this is on phone, mail, and e-scams. And again, the Michigan Department of Attorneys will be there, and that's Wednesday, tomorrow, at 11 a.m. And some of the highlights will be learn the telltale signs of scams found through phone calls, mail, email, and texts, and then learn how to minimize your risk by being scammed. So these are all important informational pieces that are valuable to all of us. Yes?
This Thursday at the Historical Museum about theater.
Yes.
Okay. And then also, just to put a plug in for Helium, it's their second-year anniversary this weekend, and they're having a birthday bash on Thursday night and a girls' night out, and that's a girls' night out. And then Friday, the event, I don't have that information, but then Saturday, there's Raku Pottery Make and Take and Cake. So please, go and support our local business in the city. Kim does a wonderful job there, and everybody that I know that goes there just keeps going back because they like it. They like her, and they like everything that she has to offer in that store. And with that, motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
It's been moved by Councilman Sanders, supported by Mayor Pro Tem. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. See you in 2 weeks.